And we're live.
All right. Hey guys, what's going on? This is the Best Overall Show. I am your host, David Koska, and other host,
Jim Vessel. Hey everyone, how are you?
Tonight, once again, we're going down the usual streams that we go on. Just talking about 40K, talking about hobbying, talking about gaming, talking about literature, talking about life, and all the bullshit in between. So we got a lot to cover today, actually.
We do. I'm very excited. And also, I'd like to welcome my my firstborn son, the Dark Prince himself, Bellicor. Bellicor, how are you? Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good of you to join us.
I'm happy he's here to join us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim's son.
Yeah.
You are looking effervescent as usual.
He's looking great. He's looking great.
I can see he's got your eyes.
Absolutely. All right. So quick announcements before we get into it. I always have announcements. Well, first of all, is there any audio issues? If you're in the, I guess in the audience, I had crazy audio issues on Tuesday and also on Monday. So if we're having any audio issues, please let me know. But just two quick announcements, I guess. Last week, Tuesday, we had Val Heffinger on politics and plastics. So if you haven't listened to that episode, we talked about 40K as an esport, which was really exciting. And then next Tuesday, we have Eric Kakasi, who is my co-host on the Exterminatus podcast. And we're going to talk about ELO ratings as far as should they be implemented in 40K. And if you have no idea what an ELO rating is, it's basically the rating system they use for chess. So it's basically a rating system that's based on the, basically the opponent you play actually determines your rating versus like certain events. So we're going to be talking about that on next Tuesday. And also on Monday, Competitive Corner, Peter the Falcon will be joining me and Alex McDougall to talk stats and Jukari numbers. We'll also be reviewing the Dallas GT. So if you guys haven't tuned into Competitive Corner, that's every Monday with me and Alex McDougall. Please make sure to check that out. And that's it. Those are the only announcements. Oh, last announcement for those Canadians out there. If you're Canadian and you like Warhammer and like competitiveness, Team Canada for the WTC has put out a statement, and I'm just going to put it up on the screen, stream here. Sorry guys, give me a second. I'm going to pull up on the stream here. That basically outlines the plans for Team Canada. Let me see if I can do this right. I'm very bad at technology. This one? Yes. All right. So just to kind of review the statement from Team Canada. So Team Canada basically has dissolved the WTC team as it currently stands. You see that? A little bigger?
I mean,
okay.
That's pretty...
So this is mostly English, but a little bit French. But basically, Team Canada WTC team, which I was a part of, has now dissolved. And we're going to be rebuilding the team for the 2022 WTC. So if you're interested in living in Canada and a citizen and are competitive, please take a look at the 40K WTC site for Team Canada. And if you're interested, apply. The application is open to everyone and anyone that is interested in potentially going to Europe to play as part of Team Canada. And so, yeah, just want to make sure that announcement got out. Because I'm excited to have new blood into the system. So yeah, that's basically all I have. So I'm going to pull that off the screen.
Jim, I do have a question for you about that. Anyone's welcome, Canadian citizens. If I was screeched in, does that count as me being a Canadian citizen?
If you were what?
Screeched in?
What's that mean?
You don't know about screeching in?
I have no idea what that means.
Oh, and you're not an official Newfie, friend.
I'm sorry.
So in Newfoundland, they have this thing called a screeching in,
okay,
where you gotta like take a shot and you kiss a fish and you do a little jig, and then you get a certificate to be like an honorary Newfoundlandish person.
Well,
they call it screeching in.
I don't know if they've told you, but we don't like the Newfies in Canada.
Why? Because they're too friendly, or because they call everyone my darling.
I think it's the accents.
Really strange.
But yeah, like
really?
Newfoundland accents are basically like, what's like the worst accent in America?
That's subjective.
In your opinion, what's the worst accent in America?
That's hard. I'd say the hardest one to hear is like a New Orleans accent.
Okay.
Sometimes is really hard for me to hear, or like a West Virginian
Okay.
accent's really hard sometimes for me.
So like
I laugh a lot.
yeah, like
Oh,
as
sorry.
much as we think that like Americans have like a very like unified country, most people in Canada, anything past Quebec is basically like a wasteland. So all the maritime provinces we kind of like don't really think about. They're kind of like the like forgotten armpit of Canada. And the Newfies, especially, we have very little care for, and um, they have like weird accents that like no one understands. They're basically like Cockneys, but like Canadian.
I don't think
Um,
that's true. They don't sound like that.
right. I actually used to have a person I worked for from Newfoundland. We used to call him the Codfather because cod is like a big industry out there. So yeah, the
Yeah.
Codfather. So that is a Canadian, the Newfoundland or Newfoundland. No one even knows how to even say the name of the
Like
province.
Newfoundland and Labrador, or whatever.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Labrador.
Anyways,
Named after a dog, basically. So, all right, David,
no hero.
we have some news.
Yeah.
All right. So,
What news are we talking about?
I guess let me come clean really quick. I said I'd come clean. Are you there, David? Hello? Are you there, David?
Internet's page.
I just
Yeah,
lost you
sorry,
for a sec.
my internet was being a jerk for a moment. My apologies.
All right. So, I'm going to come clean really quick because I thought I should have like a bit of a like I don't know, like apology, not even apology, but just like make a statement. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's not. And I guess I just wanted to clarify something. I know obviously on this show and on many other shows that I appear that are mostly my own shows. So it's not like so all the various shows that I've created for myself to talk about things that I care about. I know sometimes I can come across as like overtly negative in regards to the hobby, but I just want to clarify that I love I love this hobby more than anything. It's a huge part of my life. I really love Games Workshop. I love everything they've done for the hobby, and I love the companies like FLG, like I don't know, Creature Caster, like I don't know, Monument Hobbies. There's so many companies that I love because they do such a great thing and they contribute so much to the hobby. And I know sometimes, although I can come off as overtly negative, it's not because I don't like these kinds of companies or brands. It's because I come from a background of like activism, and my activism is in the vein of always like challenging power, always pushing power, and always questioning, right? Always being skeptical and always like making sure that I'm holding things accountable, not whether it's my government or whether it's the companies that I put my money into. And so I just want to make sure that although I do sometimes be a little bit negative, that I actually love this hobby. It's such a huge part of my life. It's changed my life. I've met so many amazing people, including David, through it. And I would never give it up for anything. And although I do try to give the companies that we talk about, whether it's Games Workshop or the WTC or the FLG or any of these other companies, I try to give them as much of like a fair hearing, I guess. When they do shitty shit, I will call it out. And when they do good stuff, I will praise them. I'm not going to ever be a sponsored kind of shill for any of these companies. I will call out their bullshit and I will also call out their greatness. So if that's the kind of like honesty you want, that's what you're going to get on this cast. I will never hold back from my opinion. I will never be dishonest with you guys as listeners. For me, it's really important to be transparent and honest about what I think and not ever feel like the things that I say I'm maybe censoring or holding back because I'm worried about some sponsorship or some affiliation. So, with that said, let's talk about
We're talking
the
about
predictions.
Belcore again.
Yeah. Anyways, that's
Okay.
all I want to say. I just want to clear that up because sometimes people think that because I shit on GW sometimes and shit on other companies that I don't like them, but I love them and I want them to be better. So I'm just a very disappointed dad. So, David.
It's okay. You're not disappointed. You're so happy about
Yeah, Bellacor's
it. Talk about your hobbying of that week.
I actually, okay, so I've been working on Bellacore, which has been an amazing process. I'm not going to reveal him any more than he's painted on the stream, but tomorrow he'll probably be done, so I'll post them on my Instagram, JimboV_paints. Make sure to check that out. What are you working on, David?
Besides I am at this moment working myself that I'm done painting this Catafriend. I'm painting this model now for like passively 3 weeks. Sure, I can.
I just want to see if I can identify the models. So is that the Necromunda robot dude?
Yes.
And then the gun is maybe from a Redemptor?
No, that's just the Catafriend Destroyer arm.
Okay. The shoulder gun is from a Knight? All right. The eyeball is from...
The shoulder gun, you said?
Sorry?
Wait, did you see the shoulder gun?
Yeah.
Did you see the... No, it's actually from the Catafriend Destroyer kit.
Oh, well, fuck me. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about then.
It's okay. And then the top part of the torso and the shoulder pads are from Titanicus Knights. The face is from a Hunter King. And the back part is made from sterilizer turbines and Hellblaster plasma core.
Looks amazing, man.
Guys, I'm super excited. I want to build 4 of them, and that's
Wait, let me get this straight. You built and painted a single model out of a unit. What's the minimum unit size?
Minimum units.
Wow, so you built and painted one from scratch, and you don't even have enough for a full unit?
No, this is the second one I started working on. He's got more of like a plasma gun, and they're all kind of have like slightly different variations because the Deus Mechanicus, when they're just building their weird rough, fleshy constructs, they're never really the same ever. What I'm more excited about was on Instagram. I posted because yesterday was the 28th, and if you play Inquizimunda or Inc 28, we do 28 as a hashtag. I started working on a new model for my my Necromunda Inquizimunda Road Trader gang. You see like an old fisherman guy who goes and like hunts like sea creatures, and then the Road Trader was like, "Yo, you're good with that spear. Come with me." That guy's made from like make more of them because the new what the fuck are they called? It's like Fingrangers. Bogenhafen Barons.
What are you talking about?
If you check out this,
Blood Bowl.
The Blood Bowl kit, the Hafen Barons. There's some really cool bits in it. Because I'm a big fan of the John Blanche-esque, like high gothic-y, like frilly pants, but like robot arms kind of aesthetic.
Right.
Those are a great foundation. Yeah.
David, can I ask you a question? I feel like this is like a question that everyone has been asking. Are you on Wi-Fi right now? Yes. Or are you in like a cabled connection? David froze, so obviously.
Files connection.
Sorry?
Is my internet just being shit today?
Your internet is garbage right now. Like literally, I feel like I'm smooth as butter, and maybe the audience can agree. And you're like literally like look like you're stop motion animation from like the 50s.
Okay, so maybe if I sit closer to Bill help, I don't know, man. I want to be away from the light. I don't know, man. I'm a fucking mess. This is how. I'm just asking.
Do you have a wired connection or are you Wi-Fi?
I think I'm Wi-Fi right now.
Wi-Fi, yeah. So that's the issue. Wi-Fi is like the devil.
All right. I'm gonna sit over here. It'll get.
Hopefully that helps. It hasn't so far.
And I'll sit on my couch.
All right. Yeah. Shane says I'm your smooth jam to your chunky peanut butter.
Yeah, definitely true.
Right. Okay. All right. So, David, next week, I'm going to throw it up on screen here. Let's talk GW predictions. So, I think I figured this out.
Yeah.
Okay. So, next week, I don't know if you can see the screen. Monday, we have Age of Sigmar. Tuesday, 40K.
Okay.
Wednesday, Black Library. Thursday, Box Games. Friday, more 40K. And then Saturday, Mystery.
Okay.
What are your predictions for next week as far as the Warhammer Fest? Or any predictions at all?
The easiest one I can tell you is they will be talking about Delac for Necromunda. Single quarter.
On what day, though?
Releasing
Is
a new
that Box Games
specialist.
Thursday?
What's that?
On Thursday, Box Games?
I assume. Yeah. That'll probably be that for Necromunda. I know they're doing a Delac box game called Gang War, but they're going to have a new box set, kind of how like Cador's game, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know. Age of Sigmar, they might announce the next edition of Age of Sigmar. I feel like
not on Monday though. I feel like that could be a Saturday thing.
And the way that, yeah, it'll be a big release. Yeah, trying to go in chronological order, or are we just trying to lump sum it?
No, you can give your chronological. I just don't think that'll be a Monday thing. That feels like a very much a Saturday thing. That's a mystery.
Yeah, I don't really know what's going where or anywhere, frankly. I mean, been known to GW to give us some pretty big fails when it comes to releases, and like trying to garner buzz on nothingness. Maybe we'll learn more about snakebite orcs. Yeah.
Two snagas? Is that what they're called? Two snagas?
Why can't it be called snake bites? Just make snake.
Savage orcs is actually what they should be called.
Yeah, probably what they should be called. Yeah.
So your predictions for next week are AOS 3?
Yeah, I got to talk about AOS. Because it's almost like a Awakening, where in 40K we started ramping up releases.
Beast Snagas.
Only to,
what did I say? Two Snagas? Two Snagas?
That's Snagas. Okay. That's cool too, though. They like to take all the. I would be that. Those are bad moons. Bad moons would be teeth snagas. Right. Those are rich. It's like I don't.
No, I'm listening. I'm listening. Any predictions for 40K?
Maybe finally say that Sisters are getting an actual book release, because I'm kind of sick of this. Like look at the the Elite's Choice ones, Celestians, and like those weird the Elite's Choice Celestians. Right. They have like new unit for that. They got this new battle tank. They got awful, ugly, useless sister suits, which are just so dumb.
You're getting a lot of comments that internet is garbage. Is there a better place you can move, David? I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me go.
All right, while David moves, I will give you guys my predictions.
Oh!
Sorry, David. All right, so my predictions. Okay, so quote me now, and then quote me later when I'm right, because obviously I'm always right. Here's my predictions. So Monday, I think we see the remaining Beast Lord, Gravediggers. What are they called? Basically the new vampire counts is my prediction for Monday. Tuesday, I think we see the remaining Sisters releases, essentially. So everything else that's coming out for Sisters, including maybe a Codex announcement, maybe. Wednesday, Soulblight Gravediggers, yeah. Wednesday, Black Library. I feel like we'll get the next Siege of Terra book announced. Potentially a few more books announced. I think Dad Abnett will announce the next book. I'm really hoping it's the third book in the Beckwin trilogy, which me and David are going to talk about shortly. Thursday for box games, I think we could potentially get another release for Adeptus Titanicus. Maybe the next Blood Bowl team, or a few Blood Bowl teams. And then Warcry and or Underworld's Warbands. Friday, I believe on Friday we'll get the Beast Snaga preview, including potentially, I think at some point between Tuesday and Friday, we're going to get a Codex kind of like roadmap. So like, I think, here's my guess, and I'm going to predict it right now. So we're going to add Mech next, then probably Sisters, because I feel like they've focused on that a little bit more for Codexes. Then the Beast Snagas. And then after that, it's really unknown, but potentially the new supplement will be announced on Thursdays with the demon rules, because Bellacore is getting new demon rules as well. So I'm thinking that could potentially be on Thursday, or Friday, sorry. And then on Saturday, my prediction is AOS 3. or something that teases AOS 3, including the Broken Realms Chronos, the next Broken Realms book. That could be on Monday or on Saturday. So those are my predictions. Let me know in chat what you guys' predictions are. Yeah, I have no idea where David is. He's gone off to like somewhere far away. If you can plug in David, that would be the most amazing thing. But if you can't, that's fine. So that's my predictions for Warhammer Fest next week. Bellacore, what do you think? Oh, really? No, I don't think that's gonna happen. Really? Okay, you want me to tell them? No? Okay. All right, got it. So Bellacore has a few predictions, but obviously he doesn't want me to tell you guys, so I will refrain from spoiling his predictions. If he is correct, I will let you guys know next week that my son, obviously being a demon himself, obviously can see the future and travel the future, so he will let us know.
Do you feel like?
All right, David. Sorry?
Do I have better internet now, or is it still equally as bad?
Not yet.
When like it's not that bad.
It hasn't improved yet, but continue talking and potentially improve.
Oh, this sucks. I wish GW did more time travel talk. Do it much in 40K.
David, I want to talk about something insane that happened today, which I sent you a link for.
Today, insane.
Well, I already say it's insane, but it actually caught me off guard. So, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, I'm going to pull up a post here from FLG. Hopefully you guys can see this. Let's see if it's working correctly. Yeah, okay. So this is on the Frontline Gaming website. You guys can see it, hopefully. Let me know if you can't. And it's Legion Brian Horton, which we both know. He runs the Du Bois GT, which is a GT we've both attended to with great terrain. And I'm going to call out someone here. So there's this gentleman named Robert Jennings. So I don't know, he probably doesn't listen. He says, and I quote, he says that adding a painting requirement is just creating unnecessary barriers. Maybe people don't like painting or have some form of play that prevents them from painting, or just can't afford paints, brushes, and basing materials after spending hundreds of dollars on minis, codices, and supplements. It's a silly rule, and I hope someone can explain the reason for it. So there's a guy complaining that the Atlantic City Open has a painting requirement, which is basically the Games Workshop painting standard, which you guys can see on the screen now, which is basically 3 colors and a base, so it's battle ready. And he's complaining about the painting standard, thinking it's some sort of barrier to entry. And obviously there's a long list of replies, which I won't go to. If you guys want to actually read the replies, go to FLG. But I guess, David, I wanted to ask you, like, what do you think of this fact that there's someone complaining about something as simple as a painting requirement at a 250 plus person event? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that the conversation has always been. I just think someone's fine. I think nowadays it's easier for people to voice their opinions about it, and it's easy to minority people that are like, I don't like painting, so I'm gonna just whine about it. Get it? I
can hear you.
It's fine as long as it's not choppy. Hey chat, if my voice starts to turn like I'm drunk, by the way, so I'm like not drunk, so I can actually like if it sounds like I'm slurring, it means I'm having technical difficulties. So hey, anyways, when it comes to like the idea of like painting for this game, when you play Warhammer, you're pretty much taking on the fact that like you're playing a game, but you're also part of a hobby. And the GW has always been very, from the foundation, has been a model company. And with that, they want to push the hobby aspect, the painting, the modeling, the idea that like there's a lore, but you can expand upon it. And that can become, people can really run with that. And that's actually why I really love this hobby, is because I can run with the lore, run with the game, run by painting. But other people don't want to do that. Other people just want to play the game. And I get that.
Right.
But the game was meant to be a more hobby-based game, too. If you look at the first edition of Warhammer, you have it's pretty much D&D with models. Like, it's absolutely silly. No, I don't want to fight when I'm not drunk. I don't have good fighting ability when I'm not drunk. Anyway, sorry, I digress. but it's like this hobby aspect of the game is extremely important to me. Loaded question in general.
Loaded. Wow. You
The
feel like it's loaded?
reason what?
You feel like it's a loaded question?
Well, I mean, it's very biased towards like how I feel because I spend a week painting a 6-point model,
Well, of
and then I
course.
have
No
people
one,
that
no one
are
comes
like,
here for our objective opinion. We want your subjective opinion, right?
all right then, very well then. Here's the thing: I don't like when people think because I'm good at this means it's easy for me because it's
Right.
not. A lot of people struggle really hard getting into the hobby, and not many people have a natural talent for hobbying and painting. People have to work really hard, and for me, I spent 20 plus years in this hobby. Like I love this hobby. I love this game mainly because of the hobbying. And when you have a player that's like, I won't prime my models, and then they show up to a 800 to 200 person event, and I travel 6 hours with my that I painted. I literally like didn't sleep for a month or two to finish 2 new units, and I get to this event and someone has unpainted models. It's like kind of a slap to the face to the game. It's like this game values sportsmanship, it values the game, and it values the hobby. If you're being a dick to someone on this in a game of 40K because you don't care to be a sportsman, people won't like being kind of like a, you know what I mean? Like those aspects are all equally important in this game. And like when you game of 40K and your stuff isn't painted, that's fine. Maybe you're trying to figure out how to play, what units you want to even paint. But if you're going to a tournament where people have to pay money, travel to, prep for, it's like put the work in.
Right.
And if you're not, then don't show up. Like, I'm sorry. Like if people are like that's gonna be like gatekeeping, I'm like, then go play Tabletop Simulator. If this requires extra work, and if you're not gonna put the work in, then like don't show up to the these giant tournaments, because these tournaments to celebration of this hobby that we all love.
Right.
And seeing people with unpainted models just feels like
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. And like, I'm going to quote Pablo Martinez, who I don't think I've ever done, and agree with something he says, which I don't think I've ever also done. And he basically says that like at a tournament, it's not just a competition, it's a pageantry. So that was a quote that from Pablo.
Mhm.
He basically says it's basically we're ambassadors of the game at these tournaments. It's like the high level like events. Like we're not just playing a competitive game, we're also showcasing the hobby. That's the tournaments are the pinnacle of this kind of hobby pyramid, right? And if that's something that you want to be a part of, it's totally optional. No one's forcing you to go to the tournament. No one's forcing you to paint the models. But knowing that if this is something, a part of the hobby that you want to be engaged in, you need to understand that like a bare minimum paint standard is part of that process, right? It's not, it is a barrier to entry, but so is also just owning models. Like if you're poor, buying models and owning models is a barrier to entry. If you have no arms or legs, building models is a barrier to entry for you. If you are blind, then playing the game is probably with measurements is a barrier to entry. So there's a we can kind of like I guess play the that game of like what's a barrier, and there's a million barriers to this game, right? But I think at the end of the day, like once you've agreed, if you want to play this game competitively, there's certain requirements, whether it's painting or having a 2,000 point army list that's legible, and having a dice and a ruler, and having like all sorts of like your codexes. These are all like very basic things that we require from people that want to play in tournaments. And if you don't have those things, you can't play. And that doesn't mean that you can't play Warhammer or you can't enjoy the hobby. It just means in this very small slice of the hobby, there's these requirements, right? And so this person that basically says that it's a barrier is a total clown in my eyes. It's like a completely ridiculous argument, and like I don't like, a lot of people don't like painting, but like also that's not, then don't play in tournaments. Simple. There's this very small portion or slice of the hobby that has tournaments, and there's these rules. And if you don't like the rules, just don't play in them. No one's forcing you to do it, right? So the idea that like it's some sort of barrier, it just doesn't buy. and especially the fact that it's silly, I don't buy. Like, this is a hobby, a game that it's not just a competitive game. This is not, otherwise we'd just be playing like pre-painted models or we'd be playing chess. There is the hobby portion is actually part of the game. This is a big area or part of the game. And like people that say that, oh, like painting models is a burden or a barrier, I like unequivocally disagree. And again, your armory doesn't have to be painted well, but it just has to be painted 3 colors minimum, and like the basing scheme to like the level of GW, right? So I just think this person just embarrasses themselves by making like a totally like ridiculous statement. So I feel bad for the person. I hope they feel bad too. So
I think it's, at the same time, I still think it's like some people hate the fact that like they might be really good at the game and they feel like if I go to a tournament, it shows my proud game. And if they hate, it's probably because they just hate painting. It's that secret. But if they hate painting and they just want to show off the prowess and what they do when they game, I understand that.
right.
However, it's like it's not just the only part of this. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole thing. I mean, you could probably have a tournament where they're just like, we don't give no fucks tournament where there's shit. Bring paper cutout models, like we don't care. It's like me can do,
right?
But they don't exist because like you lose a lot of like other things from the hobby.
Right. Also, I want to make something very clear. This person later on posts. I get it. I understand Pablo's point. And to be honest, I don't even play in tournaments. Yo, if you don't play in tournaments, shut the fuck up. Seriously. If you don't play in tournaments and have no interest in playing tournaments, then shut the fuck up. No one cares what you think. Like this is, and I'm saying that like totally like whatever. Like at the end of the day, like I had this happen to a people like fight for causes that they're not even like they have no investment in just for the sake of like fighting for them. Like if you're not invested in the tournament scene and don't play in tournaments, have never been to a tournament, don't understand like the like pageantry and the experience and whatever, and you have no interest in it, then like take your opinion and shove it up your ass. I'm sorry to say. I don't care. I don't care what you think. Like it's just not important. Now, if you play in tournaments and actually want to like be involved, then I will actually have a little bit of like empathy and like I will listen to what you said. But if you're one of those people that just likes to like be contrarian and just likes to like stir the pot, then like seriously shut the fuck up. Anyways, that's my rant. You know why I'm so triggered, by the way, audience, is because I was on Reddit for too long the last like week, and Reddit's got me all like riled up. Reddit is like the worst place on the internet, like hands down. Anyways,
that's why I don't have a Reddit. I was on Reddit for like a day because someone called me out, and I was like, I gotta make a Reddit account to make a response to this. I'm like, ugh. And then I did, and then I found myself like my hands were balled fists, like as I was like trying to type. The problem was just punching a keyboard, and I was like, why do I go here? This is toxic and horrible. See, that's the problem about like Warhammer these days, is that Warhammer is not just a tabletop miniature game anymore. It's also a license now. There's like video games. People play the video games. Well, I mean, Wizards of the Coast is making a Warhammer 40k Magic version. Like, there's board games for Warhammer. There's books. There's animated series.
Yeah.
Like, the license has expanded considerably, and because of that, it's now much broader in a mainstream audience. And you get a lot of like mouth breathers who are like, I hate Primaris Marines. I'm like, why? Because of the lore? They're like, no, because they're bigger than normal Space Marines, and Space Marines are like 12 Space Marine mean. What? Here, like, I just don't like that. Shut up, like the gatekeeper. And I'm like, you know what? No, like, is this what like subcultures become? It's just like throwing memes at each other and just being like, I don't know.
I mean, yes, that is what it's become. To be fair,
yeah, that's
like our culture is basically just a meme
like
more of the 2021.
It's just memes and fucking dick measuring contests, and I'm just like, you know what? Can we just remove those from the game again? Just be like, we're a bunch of like socially awkward to talk about Warhammer again. I like that, where it was just a game talk. That was fun.
Yeah, I actually had the reason I'm so like fired up. I posted on Tuesday I had Val on for Politics and Plastic, and I posted in the Reddit Comp 40k. I was like, hey, the topic is, should 40K be an esport? And the first comment was, why are you saying that 40K is an esport? It's not electronic. It's like not a video game. And I was like, actually, that's the first question that was answered that I asked Val. I was like, hey, why are we calling it an esport? That was literally the first thing that I asked in the podcast. And I was like, did you listen? He's like, no, and I won't. And I was like, okay, well then get lost. Like, I just literally don't care about your opinion. And another person was like, oh, you're creating a clickbait title. I'm like, okay, can you guys just go like play in traffic or something? Because you're the worst.
I mean, we could go into this conversation, but you already shut. You know where I stand.
Stay away from Reddit. It's toxic.
Sport.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
David, let's talk about.
But honestly, though, there's a lot of people who think like, oh, like when you talk about this, you turn people away who don't want to paint your models, and you guys spout on the idea of inclusivity in the hobby. That's not inclusivity. We're talking about in different regards, trying to remove other toxic aspects of the hobby, not painting a model. Painting a model is not. That's not the kind of inclusive about. If you were wondering,
and being inclusive doesn't mean accept every douchebag that crosses the street. Being inclusive means like not like discriminating based on like any sort of like attribute that maybe that person can't like affect. Like we want to be inclusive of like all like cultures and like races and like orientations and like identities, blah blah blah. Those are all ways to be inclusive. Or like, but if you're a douche, that's not being inclusive. Doesn't mean being inclusive of like retards or like idiots or douchebags. I shouldn't say retards even. That's like not PC anymore. Anyways, whatever. My point is like being inclusive doesn't mean just like allow any old like idiot in. It means like being like not discriminating on people outside of like we judge people based on their ideas and like their like personalities. And if they're idiots, then we're gonna not include them. I'm sorry. I don't care. All right, David. We talk about current projects, right?
Yes.
I'll show you my current
yes,
project. I'm gonna try to be a little bit of a cock tease here because I don't want to reveal the whole thing. Let me just bring it. Okay. Don't look.
Just the tips.
Don't look.
Just the tips. Just show.
So I'm not gonna show you guys what I've been working on the stream, but I will show you some part of what I've been working on. I'm just gonna lift.
At least show the side. Now you're just showing the whole.
That's the wrong side. Sorry. Okay.
Now you just show the model. It's just like, there you go. Oh, look at that OSL.
That's all you guys are gonna see. That's all you guys are gonna see. So my son, Belacor, who is our guest on the podcast tonight, I've been working on him. I did get rid of the chains. He will probably be done tomorrow because I'm still working on the base here. Which is I dumbly decided to like paint with oil paints the white, which for no particular reason except that I wanted to like just like with I don't know if you ever use oil paints, but they have this like really cool capillary action where like you touch it somewhere and it like flows into all the cracks. So I was like, ooh, I want to do that with white.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that at like noon today, and it's like still drying because of oil. Any games played this week, David? Or recently?
So not really. However, I'm a friend that lives in Rochester, the next city over. He is tempting me to go to a tournament. Town. My buddy Garner. He's my friend who's a tactician. He and I both write the same weird, goofy meta lists, but he's a different characteristic. He is born with a genetic flaw known as really bad luck, to the point where
he was born
it's
with
a given that he will just roll. Flaw, not a claw.
A claw?
No, a flaw.
Oh, I thought he was like chaos, like a beastman or something like that. I thought you said claw. A flaw.
I mean, he does love chaos. He does lobster claw or prehend.
Okay, so he's born with a genetic
This is also
flaw?
possible. Also has really bad luck. But he wants me to come out to this tournament, and he's talking me into it actually today. He's like, you should come out and play with us. And I'm like, like I gotta write a list again. Like I haven't had a list in a while, and I'm like, I'm like, is it worth it? Should I
Right.
just sit down, go climb some more? But I kind of should, just because the content for this podcast.
So that's games you're gonna play next week though, not games you played last week.
No,
Right.
games I might possibly 2 days.
You're what? Sorry.
I kind of want to. What's that?
What? Just repeat what you just said. I couldn't hear you.
The tournament is in 2 days.
Right.
I haven't written a list, and I did to play with the new stuff that's in like Warzone Carrot, like the
Carcadon,
Mattel,
Chardon.
Forge World,
Right.
Chardon.
Chardon.
The new AdMech stuff, and that looks really cool, and I'm tempted to try it out.
Speaking of the new supplement, I played a game on Saturday with my Terminus S list against Chaos.
Oh, nice.
And I also played a game on Sunday with my Terminus S list against what was that? Sunday was against AdMech. Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement. So if you're listening to this cast, please pay attention. This is very important. The Terminus S list from the new Warzone supplement is absolute trash, and do not play it. That's like a hot pro tip for you from like a competitive gamer. Just do not play it. It is not good. Anyone that says it is good doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. And like, especially in singles, it's awful. Especially in win-loss draws, awful. Maybe in like an 8-man WTC style format where you can maybe choose your matchups, it's like semi-decent. But in general, it's like absolutely awful. And I actually won my game on Saturday. Actually, funny story. So I'm involved in the WTC match against Northern Ireland, and then also like this tactical tortoise bullshit like team thing. And I got my matchups confused, so I showed up on Saturday morning thinking I was playing AdMech, and actually I was playing a Chaos list that I had never even looked at. It was like Decimators, Armin, and I was like, oh, like I thought you're AdMech. He's like, no, I'm Chaos. So I was like, okay, well, thankfully I know Chaos, so I like basically bumbled my way through that one. Ended up winning like 14-6 in WTC format, which is like it was like 80 something to 40. But then I played a 6. So my team on Tactical Tortoise, if you're listening, I'm gonna call you out, Dominic Correct? Is that how you say your last name? Dominic, how do you say your last name? So we have a team for this Tactical Tortoise thing, which is totally bullshit. Just so don't do it. Dominic, okay, what's your name? I'm gonna call him out right now by full name because I do that kind of stuff. Anyways, his name's Dominic. He's from Montreal. He's French, and I was like, "Yo, my list sucks. I hate playing it. Don't pair me into." I was like, "Don't pair me into these two lists that I will get destroyed against." And he pairs me into AdMech with 6 flyers, and like I have no shooting in my army. So I'm like, "Cool, man," and it's all infantry. So like turn 1, the guy just like moves his 6 flyers up in front of my entire army, and I just like sit there in my deployment zone turn 1. And I'm like, this is fun. Great. Thanks for pairing me against this. So that's like basically, your face is very close to the camera, Tom. Or David.
It's Dave.
So that was like my Sunday game. I actually won my Saturday game. I'm not that bad at 40k apparently. But yeah, I was like, after turn 2, I'm just like, hey man, do you want to just talk this out? Because like, I have shit to do, and like this is a waste of my time. In the format of the tournament, this is the other thing that I didn't know before joining the tournament, that like, so normally in WTC style tournaments, it's a 20-0 system. So what that means is like every game is worth between 20 and 0 points, and that depends on the margin of loss.
Yep.
Right. So like if you guys get a tie, you get 10-10, and if someone slightly wins, you get an 11-9, and if someone like destroys, you get a 20-0. So like it's like a zero-sum scale of 20 points between winning and losing. And the total points in the round actually determines who wins the round, right? But in this Tactical Tortoise tournament, it's not 20-0. It's just like win-loss draw, which means my list that I ran for Northern Ireland, which is what I submitted for this Tactical Tortoise thing, it's not designed for win-loss draw. It's designed to be a blocker list, which in WTC terms means I take one of your really tough lists
Yep.
off the board, and I get like a 10-10 or an 11-9 against it. Like I lose, but I lose from with a very small amount. That's how
Yep.
the list is designed. But in like a win-loss draw tournament, it literally doesn't win games. Like it's not designed to actually win. It's just designed not to lose big. And so when they paired me against the AdMech, knowing that it was a win-loss draw tournament, instead of trying to like lose small, which wouldn't matter because it's win-loss draw. So losing small, losing big, I tried to play more aggressive. So I was like, I have to win the game. It's not, um, I can't like just barely lose. And because if I just barely lose, it's no different than like losing by a lot. So I played this list and this AdMech list. It was just bad. It was not bad. It was not good. So anyways, long story short, Terminus S is awful. Don't ever play it. And the people that wrote, I can't believe the same people that wrote Cult of Strife also wrote Terminus S. Like I assume the same people wrote the lists in that book. And it's just like, it's like literally like night and day, like effectiveness.
I mean, the Terminus S stuff. My question to you is actually, how do you feel about the spell discipline that they got? Because they do get their own psychic tree,
Right.
which is pretty cool.
So there's some like okay spells that have like situational, but the problem is like to have access to them, what you give up is just not worth it. I would have loved if those spells were just available to like Harbingers in general, or like Typhus in general, or if it was like Cult of, so like I just want to be really clear. Cult of Strife with the Dark Eldar, you have access to Warlords, Stratagems, and Relics, and all you have to do is take a Cult of Strife detachment in your army. But with the Terminus S, your whole army has to be Terminus S. So it's not like you get those tools. Like I could take a Terminus S detachment, which I think actually would be really good. But the fact that my whole army has to be that means that I give up so much more, and it's just not worth it. And it's like anyone that thinks it's good is just like smoking a lot of like crack or something. It just doesn't make sense.
I mean, the strategic reserve change, does that help a
Oh,
lot?
actually, no.
Really?
I'll actually tell you how fucked up the strategic reserve changes in a sec. But Stallworth Debate asks, he says, while we're on the topic of Death Guard, thoughts on Mortarion? So I think Mortarion's good. But he's like good in like specific lists. So I personally think that like Mortarion's good in Chaos Soup. If you're running pure Death Guard, I actually don't think he's good. He's not fast enough, and he's just not effective enough. So for me, Mortarion is like a Chaos Soup pick. If you look at like Mark Perry's recent winning list, or like Nick, or like a list with like both Primarchs, Mortarion can be good in those lists. But in pure Death Guard, Mortarion is shit. He's garbage because he's just too slow. He moves 10 inches or something like ridiculous like that. Okay, so back to this Terminus Est. Do you want to hear the most fucked up part? And everyone that's listening,
please go on, Jim.
Let me explain to you how dumb GW's rules writing is. Okay, so GW makes a book called Death Guard, and they're like, we're going to give special rules to a keyword called Bubotic Astartes, which is, in the book, it's like Plague Marines, Terminators, etc. We're also going to give it the special vehicle rule to all Bubotic Astartes vehicles, which means that they basically don't suffer the -1 to hit in combat if they're in combat. Do you know what vehicles in the Death Guard book are not Bubotic Astartes? Siri just answered. You know what vehicles are there? Almost all of them. So Hellbrutes are Bubotic Astartes, and Land Raiders. When was the last time you see either of those? So all the demon machines, all the demon engines, none of them are actually Bubotic Astartes. So anything that keys off the Bubotic Astartes keyword doesn't work. Now, part 2, Terminus Est. In a Terminus S list, they're like, take Poxwalkers, right? That's the thing. A, they don't actually give you any sort of like removal of the Poxwalker requirement. And B, here's the big thing that is like a fuck you. In a Terminus S detachment, regardless of the unit, if you want to put in a strategic reserve, it costs 1 more CP. So if you want to put a unit of 20 Poxwalkers in reserve, it costs 2 CP. But you only get the benefit of the Terminus Est thing where it let you deep strike 9 inches instead of coming off the board edge if you're Bubotic Astartes. So if you're playing a Terminus S list with like 100 Poxwalkers, if you want to put 1 unit just in strategic reserve to come off the board edge, it costs 2 CP, and they can't come in normally because they're not Bubotic Astartes. So it fucks you over when you play as the Poxwalker Horde, And the only thing that actually benefits from it is Possessed and Plague Marines, and no one takes those anyways. So it's like a complete garbage like army. Like I don't even know who the fuck wrote this. If it was like some monkey with like a fucking like piece of poo and then a banana in his hand, but like it's absolutely garbage. Like it's so garbage. And like I've played it a bunch of times, and like I can tell you unequivocally that it's like a garbage attachment. So anyone that asks me about that, is it good? I'm like, no, just don't play it. It's awful. Anyways,
your choice of words tonight, Jim, are like.
Thank you. Tom agrees with me, and I appreciate that, Tom. Thank you.
Honestly, though, it's like you're looking at like most of these campaign books that GW releases, like they're campaign books, and sometimes I feel like sometimes you're gonna get something good and you're gonna get something bad. It's like if you looked at the Greater Good book, like Gene Stealer Cult, which is fucking horrible.
Right.
They're just embarrassing to look upon. And then you look at in the same exact book, you're like, Tao's pretty good, Guard got awesome, Scions are great. It's not the same thing as some people are gonna take a knee. I think the Terminus asked that you just got a Death Guard book, so probably they're like, oh, like this is cool, like, you know, fluff shit you can throw in, and you get a whole new like trait and more strats. But like, I think the hard part is like if it was a detachment, it'd have value.
Yeah, and like the thing that pisses me off, look, hey, if you want to make Terminus Est Army Renown, and that's what all these supplements are, is just armies of renown. So Cult of Strife Army Renown, Admech Army Renown, whatever. Cool, that's fine, and it's like very fluffy, and only if you want to play this list. The problem is like when you look at the contrast between Cult of Strife, which literally makes the Dark Eldar totally over the top, and it's like one detachment, and not only is it just one detachment, but you can take the way that the wording is, you can take like Cult of Strife Warlord traits on like succubuses, not even in a Cult of Strife detachment. You don't even have to have a Cult of Strife detachment to access some of those rules. On the other side, you have Terminus Est, which not only you have to take a whole army of Terminus Est, but you're like half the units in your book basically you can't even take, and your regular strategic reserves for like Poxwalkers is like nerfed. So cultists, Poxwalkers, you can't even strategic reserve them for like the original 1 CP price. Like it's like how do we make this as useless and bullshit as possible? Like if that was the goal, you succeeded. So anyways, I'm annoyed. I'm mad about it because I'm like, it was like, it's not like it's like hard to see. Like anyone with like a 3rd grade education and like can read English could read those two things and be like, yeah, this is totally like unequal. Like it's not even close. It's so fucked up.
Well, maybe GW doesn't have the robust rules writing team. I think that.
Well, they don't.
Maybe that's what happens. Is that probably had like an intern write your section of the book that.
Yeah, like Tom knows because like
I mean, like,
yeah.
Don't forget too, man. The free blade lance section is really not that great either. It's kind of meh. And I mean, like, House Raven thing is fucking cool. I mean,
right, but the thing is, like, we know, so awesome. Like, and I don't mean to interrupt you. We know there's an Admech Codex coming and a Knight Codex. So whatever those rules are, even if they're not great, we have like this, like, I guess like there's a potential that down the road, but when those books drop and Admech drops, and it looks like they're going to get a big power upgrade, that they're going to be a lot better. With Death Guard, everything's out now. So what you're seeing between the Warzone book 1 and the Death Guard Codex, that's it. That's Death Guard. This is the whole picture of Death Guard for 9th edition, and it's just not good.
And then we get the Chaos Marine drop, and then we'll see what happens to Death Guard.
Okay, I have one other.
That's the whole thing you got. That's the other thing about like the difference between Imperium armies and Death Guard and like Chaos is that like Chaos, yes, you could for Imperium you could soup a lot, but like you don't gain like really cool combinations or synergies with each other. Other than like hopefully like my debuff aura can help my other army, like Custodes, and I think like the new House Raven strat in this Sheridan book and Inquisitors and Assassins, like that's the only time you really see, and Gilman. Who's really running Gilman? Those are the only times you really see any kind of like synergy created between faction books. In Chaos, like all your books create mini synergies in every which way. They exist there. They're not the best synergies, but some of them are amazing. And like you have a lot more flexibility between books. So when you complain about one book, forget that you still have a bunch of other books that are going to come down the line within the next year or two, and they're going to be they're going to make
but
your
like
book
David, let's be real.
better.
All the like
Yeah.
shenanigans, like the warp timing Mortarian or like the souping shenanigans with like the weird like look at Mark Perry's list, all that like weird like mixed character artists. 1000%, all that's going to go away. Everything's going to get core keywords. They're going to really limit the like stratagem use and the warlord traits and the relics across like very specific attachments. That's what's going to happen.
But
It's
you
not
don't
going to
know
be the
that.
situation where
You don't know that.
no, I do know that. I do know that. And like you can quote me now, April 29th, 2021, 7:01 p.m. on the Best of All Show episode 7. Remember this conversation when the first Chaos Codex came back? All of that stuff that's able to do right now in the souping of Chaos, it's all going to be nerfed. 1000%, I guarantee you. And because they want codexes to be independent and like not be this like weird cross faction shit. That's 1000% it will happen.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like because GW is kind of lazy with their rule writing, there's going to be a lot of keyword overflow.
No, I don't agree.
I think it will.
Okay.
You already see this like
hey,
nonsense.
I love you and like
calls of strife. You just said out of your mouth that the Cult of Strife book can be used in the Dark Eldar.
Right, but we're talking about one book with a supplement for the same book. We're not talking about like 4 codexes across cross faction. We're not talking about demons, Chaos Space Marines, Death Guard, and Thousand Suns being cross faction. We're talking about one codex with a supplement for the same codex. That's a lot different than 4 different codexes cross faction.
Nah, I feel like you're gonna see that there's gonna be pockets and people are gonna take advantage of them. And GW is going to be slow on the FAQ take on them. And I have this feeling.
Audience, chat people, just remember this. I have this clip. I'm going to record it. And then when the first Chaos Space Marine Codex drops, I'm going to replay it on the stream with David at that Best of All show. Okay, second small rant I have, which is not in the show notes, but I want to make sure it's clear.
Go for it.
The amount of Dark Eldar apologists right now in the various like competitive discussions is actually like shocking. Like, look. Okay, let me give you some quick stats, actual based on math. Dark Eldar 75% win rate, right? Which is like totally bonkers. And instead of like, a lot of people are saying, oh, the meta needs to adapt. Oh, like people need to learn the rules. Oh, people need to like they need an FAQ. Hear me now, quote me now, and then listen to this later. If Dark Eldar are winning 75% of their games now, and those loopholes, like let's say people are more familiar with the rules all of a sudden, they like learn the book and everyone knows how the book works. So there's no like difference and like there's no like surprises, no gotchas. 2, let's say like a lot of the really broken combos like liquefiers, the like crazy succubus, those are all FAQ'd so that they're like cleaned up. Even at that point, and I guarantee you, David, Dark Eldar will have like a 65% win rate. So they won't be 75%, but they'll be 65. The problems with the Drukhari book have nothing to do at the end of the day with some like 3 or 4 rules, small rules things. As a whole, that codex is it's so deep, it's so cheap, and has so many tools that the only way to actually like address the power level of it is to fundamentally change some of the core rules or make them so expensive that you can do all those things, but like you have like literally 33% less models than they do right now. People are going to be like,
have they changed the 10-point price on Reavers yet? Because that was fucking
no one plays them realistically at 20 points. My point is like people are saying like, oh, if you just fix the liquefiers and the witch, they'll be like a 55% win rate. Or people just need to like adapt to the list, the meta. No, I'm like, maybe all of that combined will go from like 75% to like 65%. But even at 65%, that's actually still a huge issue. So the problem is the way that the game is designed, they do it way too well, way too efficiently, and like they just play the game at such a high level. Exactly. Like Tom's with me. I hope you're with me. So my concern isn't the fact that they have these unbreakable combos, because I actually think that they will FAQ things like Competitive Edge where they're doing 42 checks. I'm not worried about those. Things like Dark Technomancer, I'm actually not worried about them FAQing. My concern is that like the underlying core issue of that book is that they have too many, it's too cheap, which I don't think they're going to do an FAQ. They're not going to raise points in FAQ. And they have too many ways to basically win the game and just trade. And like that is something that's going to take a huge like a chapter approved points hike, which to be fair, the chapter approved was probably printed 3 months ago, and for the summer, whatever we get in 2021, it's probably already been printed. So all these people that are like,
Yeah.
oh, like, well, if they just nerfed competitive edge, or if they just nerfed the like, I don't know, like some of the other small things, like the liquefiers, it's gonna be like 55%. I bet you it goes from 75% to like, or if people just adapt the meta and learn the list, all of a sudden we're gonna be 50. No, I'm like, no, that all of that combined will probably be like from 75 to like 65, but then you're still at 65, which means
I
you
feel
have
like
still
we're-
like a 10% gap of like win rate to cover.
I feel I feel like we're having the same discussion when people are like, Iron Hands are too good. Like, we have to make it
And they were,
overhaul
and they
the
got
game in
nerfed,
order.
and they won LVO. So like we were right.
I don't know, man. Like, I feel like once again, it's like a lot of like
Yeah.
a lot of these problems will be created through like we don't have an idea of like there is no real meta yet. That's like the whole thing I'm still
No, but there is.
discussing.
I
Like,
disagree with you. Listen.
no, there
No,
isn't.
I disagree with you.
How many good players are playing against other good players on actual tabletop simulator?
Listen, okay. Okay, listen to me for a sec.
Okay.
If it looks like shit and it stinks like shit, I don't need to taste it to know that it's shit.
I don't know. Durians don't
My
taste
point is,
like
look,
gas. They might taste like gasoline, but you might like them.
I want to go to the chat really quick. Stalworth Debate says most people seem to think that a Codex Y 10 to 15% points hike, they need to do a points hike. But here's the big thing. And I'm just gonna be honest, and this will sound egotistical. And Tom, if you're listening and like you agree with me, let me know. If you play at a high level of 40k, within like 24 hours of a Codex releasing, you see almost like 97% of the combos, and you can pretty accurately assess the power of a book within like 24 hours of it releasing. It doesn't take like months and months of data, months and months of playing. I can look at like when Iron Hands came out and they had the like -1 damage and the 6-inch, like the -1 damage 6-inch bubble and all these kinds of things. Literally within like 3 days that was solved, and like everyone knew that that was the strongest thing and so good. It didn't take like months and months of data for us to figure that out. But like intuitively, you look at that, and if you've played enough 40k, you look at these kinds of rules, and you're like, that is too strong. I see how good that is. You don't need like 1,000 like hours of reps or like 30, 40 games or 100 hours of games. That's not to say that like that doesn't help. Like people not knowing the army is like helping the fact that people are like playing against a new codex. There is a part of that new codex part, but again, what I'm saying is like if they're winning at a rate of 75%, after everyone learns the army and after they do those small nerfs, it'll still be like a 65%, in which case it'll still be problematic.
Okay. No, I hear you on that. I
Yeah.
really do. It's just that when you have smart play, it's like this game. It's also like you have to think of like the tactical aspect of the game. I feel like 8th edition was the problem is that I come from a 7th edition world. I love a very robust rule book. That's why I play Heresy as much as I do. When you have a robust rule book,
Sorry.
must have been too hard for you, Jim. I understand.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Do you know there's rumors of a Plastic Horse Heresy box set? We can talk about that later, but
Better be. But the idea is like when you don't have a robust core rule, you're pretty much stuck playing with like math and codexes. However, there's still that iota of like tactical play.
right?
And like I still feel that until you have players with intelligence playing against other players of intelligence on high level in-person games, you're not going to get the real experience on this. Like
Okay, so
hammering
okay,
out a game.
David, I agree with you. But in the last 3 weeks, we've had 1,000 games of Dark Elder results between the IDC Battles app, between 150 tournament games. So like that, what you're describing has already happened. It's not some like far off future thing. Like we've already seen those results, right? So like I agree with what you're saying. You need high level players playing these lists and trying these lists. But the point is like that's already happened. In just 3 weeks, we've had that.
I'm just waiting till I can actually go to an actual event.
Right.
Frankly, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, maybe I just don't have my head in the meta sky right now or the clouds. When I play against, I don't know, like I play a pretty goofy army whenever I play 40K.
We know.
And so like if I have to play against like an Iron Hands list, I literally just like walk a Doomcrawler into their army and just tie up a bunch of their dreadnoughts. And then they, like in 8th edition, I did that multiple times. I would literally walk a Doomcrawler into their army and then bring it. And they had no melee potential to like actually fuck it up. They'd have one dreadnought falling back and shooting, but they couldn't really do much. And it was like, I'm not playing a strong dice game. I'm just locking their shit up so they can't do anything. And it's like, yeah, it's like, I didn't really mind. I mean, like, people complain about how bad Iron Hands were, or, I mean, when Yunari, that was also pretty wild.
But
like when Yunari had exploding everything.
You talk about it as if, like, people complain about these lists, and it was all just, like, not true. People complain, and, like, those lists actually, like, Iron Hands were actually broken, Yunari were actually
those lists are hard. Yeah, they're hard. They're hard to play against. The game is not balanced.
No.
You have to accept that. But you can still challenge yourself and be like, you know, like you play against a hard list and you're like, I can beat this.
But here's the point. I could write a list. And it's like, I could probably write a chaos list or a few other lists that could actually like totally tailor to beat Drukhari. I could do that. But it would lose against every other game list. And I'd go like, if I played Drukhari round 1, maybe I'd beat them. But then I'd lose every other game. So I can tailor against them and like maybe build a list that's winnable against Drukhari. But not that, like, if it was a really good player, maybe even not. There's probably no chaos list that exists. But at the end of the day, I'm going to lose against other lists. Whereas Drukhari can basically build a fairly generic list with like Raiders, Witches, Incubi, an Archon, like all the shit that's like dominating right now. Void Raven Bombers. Can I read you a quote? Tom, you'll like this because I heard the cast today with on Honest Wargamer. But let me read you a quote from Ridvin, who's like our top Dark Eldar player, about Void Raven Bombers. Literally, this is what he said. And I was like, Void Raven Bombers are like amazing. They're so good. Yeah, Void Ravens are amazing. I'll tell you, Ridvin played a game today, and I'm gonna share with you guys very like secretive stuff. Let me see here. What does he say? Blah blah blah. No one cares. Who's talking there? Blah blah. No, still no one cares. No, that's not it. Is that it? What is that? Where is it? Come on, Ridvin. Show me what you got. They're arguing about this, that, and the other thing. That was Wednesday. That's last night, right? We're arguing about, a lot of it was arguing about the Brad's list, blah blah blah. Okay, one sec. Why is that? Oh, this is sad. I can't find the quote.
Want to paraphrase for us then, instead of eating up precious airtime?
We got all night. I'm gonna find this quote.
While Jim's looking for that,
yeah, you talk a little bit.
Sure, I'll talk a little bit. No, the Void
here we go.
Raven Bomber.
Here we go.
Oh, here we go.
Redvin, quote unquote, Scary. Double bombers, some bloody needles today. Killed attack bike, 4 Sandguard, a chapter master, and almost killed the librarian, 5 Death Company, and they had a 5+ feel no pain bubble. In one turn. Both bombs hit him, 10 mortals. Cool, balanced. And that's not even the thing that people are worried about.
Yeah.
It's fucked. Like we haven't even like touched the surface of like how fucked up like Dark Eldar are.
I think we're getting there.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, you know what we should talk about instead of 40K competitive? I know you have 2 other podcasts that probably talk about this. Let's talk about Penitent, because we've been wanting to talk about this for a while, and I've been sick of not talking about it. So let's talk about Penitent.
So full warning. chat, I'm gonna like give you guys a warning right now, a spoiler warning. We're gonna talk about the book Penitent by Dan Abnett, which is the second book in the Beckman trilogy by Dan Abnett. So if you have not read the book and are not interested and don't want to hear spoilers, tune out now. When we're done spoilers, I will wave my hands like this, which means you can tune back in. So mute the cast if you guys are not interested in spoilers. But otherwise, we're going to talk about spoilers. So David.
Huge spoiler warning. If you don't want to not know what happens in Penitent, turn off your audio now.
Right. So David, can you, before we get into like the specifics, can you just explain to us the whole trilogy, like nineology? What is it? 9 books now? So can you just contextualize like the books that we're talking about?
Technically, there are 9 books now.
Keep talking.
There will be 10. So what happens is Inquisitor Eisenhorn, he's an Inquisitor of the Imperium, obviously, and it kind of goes through his journey to pretty much stop a cabal known as the Cognitae, which are this group of like evil scholars, I guess you could say. They're trying to figure out this alphabet of like unwords that can pretty much like space and time, technically. Yeah. All right. You kind of get a taste of it in the Horus Heresy too, like the Cabal and the Perpetuals and stuff. They all kind of do that shit too. But it's really important to know that like Eisenhorn is an Inquisitor, servant of the Emperor, and will do whatever it takes to like fucking stop that shit. Anyways, he does some really sketchy things, like does auto seances with the dead, you know, captures a demon prince and bounds it to his will. Cool shit like that. He becomes a renegade, pretty much, or extremis diabolus, and he gets pretty much like to the point where he'll be hunted by the Inquisition till the day he dies or until he's killed. In the meantime, the second this all happens, and then you find out that like his star pupil, who in the second book is like horribly mangled in like an ambush for the arch enemy
on Thracian Prime.
Yeah,
which is one of the okay. For those of you who have not read the Eisenhorn trilogy, I think it's Malleus is the second book.
Yep, Xenos Malleus Hereticus.
So Malleus is the second book, and there's I guess a scene or a chapter or whatever, which is the parade on Thracian Prime. I won't ruin much, but I read it originally when it released in paperback, probably in like 2006, 2007, a long time ago. And I read it, and then I reread it, and then I read it a third time because I had to make sure that like I actually like read what I thought I read. It's the equivalent of like the Red Wedding of like Game of Thrones, but like 40K. So definitely like read that. I mean, maybe not that extreme, but like up there. It's up there. It's it's such an amazing.
It's pretty intense though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not full Red Wedding, but like close, I'd say. It's like one of those things where you have to read it a few times. You're like, did that actually just happen? So I won't spoil any more if you haven't read the book, but definitely check out the Eisenhorn trilogy and the Ravnor trilogy.
Yeah. I'm right now. I'm only about 2. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say I'm just about to finish. I'm about like 200 pages short of the Magos, which is a book that was like stealthily released last year, and it's a bunch of short trilogies. And then there's a book, an actual full-length novel at the end called the Magos, which is like it brings you right to like where the Pariah Beckwin trilogy starts.
Right. And I don't know if you said this because I just stepped away, but obviously the Eisenhorn trilogy is about Eisenhorn from his. So one of the cool things about the whole like set of books is it's totally first person, which is something very unique in like writing. I don't think you read a lot of novels that are first person. So the first trilogy, Eisenhorn trilogy, is from the perspective of Gregor Eisenhorn, and it's like first person. So it's like he's like there's a lot of eyes, like it's from his personal perspective. And then the second trilogy in the three set series is from the perspective of Inquisitor Ravnor, who is one of Eisenhorn's star pupils. So it's from his first person's perspective. And then the third trilogy, which is what we're going to talk about tonight, is the Beckwin trilogy, which is from the perspective of Elizabeth Beckwin, who is one of Eisenhower's pupils as well, and it's all first person as well. And so the first book is called Pariah, and the second book is called
She's
Penitent.
not though.
Sorry, did you already say all that?
I saw shiny things and I got my attention
Okay,
split.
so that's just to like
But,
lay the groundwork of like what we're talking about. We're talking about the second book in the third trilogy called Penitent, and it's based on the
Yeah.
adventures of Elizabeth Beckwin, who is a pariah, right, within Eisenhower's warband
Yep.
of merry men and women. So basically, she has the pariah gene, which means she's a psychic blank. So in the 40k universe, people that have the pariah gene basically are like nulls. So like Sisters of Silence, which is like a 40k unit in the game, are actually all nulls. They have the pariah gene, which basically means not only do they have no psychic ability, but they actually create like a negative psychic like field basically. So psychers around them basically feel sick and can't actually like do anything. They're basically immune to all sort of psychic like things. And they actually they get like really like uneasy around them. And even normal people do as well, because normal people have like a very like latent psychic like aura. That's why they're like sucked into the warp.
A soul.
Yeah, they have souls. So basically, like they're basically nulls, which is like and they have the pariah gene, which is like a very specific mutation of the human genome in 40k, which means that they basically, they're like it's like antimatter and matter. So they're basically like antimatter for psychers. All right.
Yeah.
I think that's a good setup of the.
So, yes. However, Beckwin's character is a little more different. Her name is not Elizabeth Beckwin. She's Beta Beckwin. Eisenhorn thinks it's Beckwin's daughter. That's how he. However, are we gonna start doing spoilers?
Yeah, full spoilers.
Now.
Full spoilers. So if you don't want to read these books, don't read the books, or don't pay attention. And I'll also give you guys a timestamp if you're listening on a podcast. I'll give you a timestamp when we stop talking about it. We're at 1 hour 22 minutes. I will tell you the timestamp when we stop talking about it.
Okay. Shit, I already spoiled the part where Beckwin's
a
clone.
Okay.
Beckwin, she's not even. Yeah, she's not Beckwin's daughter. She's actually like a clone of her gene. And I love this book because it brings everyone back to the table. It brings like Ravener and Eisenhorn's warbands back together, and like there's a lot of like infighting, and there's a lot of like really cool characters that get like added into the mix. Like there's like an Alpha Legionnaire that hangs out with Eisenhorn now, and that Alpha Legionnaire has like a dog that can talk. So that's cool. I want a talking dog. Yeah, and then like Beckwin has like a blood angel / cherub that summons from her blood. That's also really weird. The book is really strange, but also really interesting because you find out the Cognite, which is a group that Ravener and Eisenhower have both been spending their entire lives hunting down to extinct to try and destroy them. You begin to find out that they were working for someone in the yellow. Very like cryptic, and they don't really explain what it is or what that entails.
Right.
But you find out that the Cognite are pretty much have been like removed from the playing field, and that they're being killed off also by the people that were like hired by like the Yellow King.
So sorry, just to like I don't.
You start to find out that like they're most.
Sorry, just to like. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, like, just for those of you that have not read the books,
what do you want?
The idea is that like the Cognite are essentially, as far as the story is concerned, they're like basically a part of the Inquisition. That's like what they tell the people in the that's the what's the Maison, what's it called? The Maison. Okay. No.
The Cognite are technically trying to find. I talked about this already.
All right, go ahead. Keep I gotta do my research.
You walked away when I was talking. No worries. And one of the cool things about this book is that there's a lot of like unhealthy alliances and gathering information and really crazy fights. And then you find out that like there's like this group of space marines that are like the collegiate like obscuro or something. I forget what they're called, but like there's like a group of space marines that are all like gathered together during the heresy, and they're there to like we haven't really figured out exactly what their goals, but like when you speak their name, they just are summoned whoever you are. It's pretty cool. Just like the randomness is being thrown into this book, and it's just like you're at like fever pitch of like insanity. At the end of it, like you also find out that like the Cognitae are using like a pocket dimension to travel through, and there are certain cities
in the warp.
What's that?
Basically.
No, they're more
so
like
the pocket dimension is in the warp.
They're almost like baby
no?
web. No, they're not in the warp. No, it's like a different dimension, kind of like how like Necrons have like tesseracts.
Okay.
So more like webway portal style, and you find out that like Beckwin has to escape a horrible situation. She ends up in one of those pocket
Which
dimensions.
Which is where the
and she ends up.
What's the name of the city in the pocket dimension? The City of Dust. City of Dust.
Sure, I don't remember exactly.
That's what it's called. I'm telling you right now because I'm looking on the internet.
I don't have my book here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And one of the cool things about it is that like she finds out that like they're like wearing like military. She finds there are other people that look exactly like a clone.
Right.
And then you find crazy shit. And I'll find out the most crazy of all is that the Yellow King. When I read it,
you're cutting off so much.
The
right
Yellow
now,
King,
David.
I knew something. Am I good?
Yep, you better.
No. The Yellow King is Constantine Valdor, which blew my mind. If anyone's here, like, wait, what?
What did you think of that when you read that?
Yeah. I'm interested to see why Constantine Valdor is doing everything that he's doing. Have you read any of like the other books that include Valdor?
I read
in them?
Valdor, like something of the Imperium. It was like the book with him and I think there was like some of the Selenar where they basically like found the Imperium with Malcador. I think that book I read. And it's like from the perspective of him during the
one that talks about
the wars against the what was the original wars? The Unification Wars, I think that yeah.
Thunder Warriors. Yep.
But there's a book where it's like his like adventures during that time.
So the thing about Valdor that's really important is Valdor has been with the Emperor since like the beginning of everything. And so you begin to notice that like Valdor is so completely, utterly loyal to the end.
Not just like from like a philosophical perspective, but genetically, he's actually like been genetically designed to be unflinchingly loyal to the Emperor. So it's not just about like his like feelings; it's actually like part of his like gene code.
Yeah. I also I think I put the no.
What's
Damn
the link? If you send it to me, I can put in chat.
Hold on. I sent you the wrong link.
It'll be blocked because random people can't put links
I put the
in
wrong
chat.
link in chat. There's
no.
Oh, you can't.
No.
Can't?
Because it's like no.
Not even
I
me.
can make you
not you.
Admin or whatever.
I
but
can't.
yeah.
It knows better. I'll send it to you then. In
send me on
Skype chat,
Instagram and I'll throw on there.
There's a oh, sorry, it's already sent to you on. There's a guy on YouTube who does a lot of like audio readings of books, and his name is a Border Prince. Good fan reading of another Constantine Valdor story called Two Metaphysical Blades. And it talks about the spear that Valdor owns and the spear that
Yeah,
Leland
they're
Russ
twins.
has, and how it like
They're twin
throughout
spears.
the timeline of like and it's a really great story because it talks a little bit about Val. He's a very beautiful character. Some people think he's just like way too just I don't know boring because he's just so dutiful and but you gotta remember is like in the 30K universe there's the warrior, the wizard, and the emperor. There's like the three pillars of the Imperium. There's Malkador, Constantine Valdor, and the Emperor. And that the Emperor is like pretty much like a husk on a throne. Malkador's and Valdor disappears into the warp randomly, and that's why he's not in the fluff right now.
When did it actually
40K.
happen in 30K? Because like I feel like as far as like the 30K like Horus Heresy Siege of Terra novels, that hasn't happened yet. So where is that written that he basically disappears in the warp?
He does. It's probably either after the heresy and during the scouring. I forget when they do it. It's probably in my Custodes Codex.
Oh,
if anyone's a Custodes Codex,
that's what I was asking. What's the source of that? Like the Custodes Codex?
Yeah, I believe in the Custodes Codex that like, Valdor just mysteriously disappears. You know, like how everyone just kept, had their own little poop moment. Is pooped out of existence. So I'm really a big fan of seeing what Valdor's plans are, because technically he's the only fully functional like OG of the Imperium. I mean, you look at how Gilliman like hates. I mean, that's one of the cool things about 9th edition is that like because of the Indominus Crusade, you get a lot of great fluff of Gilliman trying to restructure the Imperium and everyone hating him for it.
They retcon like the whole timeline.
Not all of it. The Indominus Crusade.
Yeah.
But if you look, there's a movie. Sorry, there's a book called The Regent's Shadow, and it's a Custodes and Sisters of Silence book, and it's about the High Lords that don't believe in Gilliman's vision, and then try and do a military coup of Terra. That's still technically canon. But I mean, like you're starting to see like the older Imperium like trying to and the midst of the the ecclesiarchy trying to create this whole Imperium is holy, and you have this whole secular part of the Imperium rearing its head now because Gilliman is flesh and blood of the Emperor, telling people like he's not a god, dude.
Yeah,
like chill.
I think there's like a I can't remember exactly the source, but there's like a either a line or like a thing from Gilliman where he's basically like, why the fuck did you guys wake me up to like this shithole of an Imperium? Like I left you guys like in a good place, and like this is what you guys like I came back to. Like he's like not too happy about it.
Yeah.
So okay, so like going back to Penitent.
Mm-hmm.
What do you so like the big reveal at the end is that the Silent King is Constantine Valdor, and obviously there's one more book left from Dan Abnett.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like what are your thoughts that like Constantine Valdor is still alive and doing like all sorts of weird shit in the warp? And B, like, what are your, like, I don't know, like, how do you think this whole thing's gonna end? Because Dan Abnett has stated that the next book, which is like the third in the Beckett trilogy, is basically gonna wrap up the whole Eisenhorn like and Ravener like storyline. It's basically gonna be like the the 9th book in like a 9-book series. So it's gonna wrap up all the like loose ends. Like Eisenhorn will get like some sort of like outcome, like Ravener will get some sort of outcome, whatever. Like what are your any predictions, or like what do you think of the whole thing?
I mean, obviously Eisenhorn is gonna fight it. Like it's I'm kind of like fine with that. Eisenhorn's living on borrowed time since Hereticus, so I'm surprised he's still alive. He's more leg braced than man at this point. He's just a grumpy old man.
Do you have a model? Do you have like the
demon host buddy that carries him around? Yeah, I have the resin model. I never actually built him. I have 2 in box. I was gonna convert one, convert one into Old Man Eisenhorn, because the new Orlok box set comes with leg braces. So I want to make like an Old Man Eisenhorn. I have the old Inquisitor Eisenhorn.
Inquisitor is like such a cool game. I wish like that. I mean, there's so many like reasons why it failed, but like it would have been cool if it ever picked up. You know?
Yeah.
Doesn't the Eisenhorn model
Did you
in
actually get to
40K
play
have
it?
leg braces though? No. I'm just looking at it right now.
No,
No, it doesn't.
no. Yeah, it's young
He's like very young.
Eisenhorn. He's still got his shit
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
He has his rune staff though.
He's like cool 40-year-old
Yeah.
Eisenhorn. Yeah, he does. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm really excited to see how the ending for this series goes. I mean, I've been reading it
Right.
since the beginning. Like I have Xenos, Malice, Hereticus before they had omnibuses. I'm such a huge fan
Right.
of all these books. Like I'm really excited to see where Dan Abnett leaves this series off. Obviously Valdor's think what's going to happen
why
is like,
why is that obvious though? Because he's like not really a part of the current fluff. So if he dies, it's not like any sort of like weird like loss, I guess.
I feel like there's a lot going on. So if you guys haven't, well, I feel like if anyone's listening right now, you're obviously read the book and or don't care. We're talking about spoilers, but there are 3 craft worlds that are ready to invade this pocket dimension to destroy the pretty much.
Right. And okay, so like
3 whole.
right. And like okay, so just to like even like dial it back a little bit more. The Silent King, who is Constantine Valdor, is for 10,000 years he's been working on a very singular mission. He has had one purpose and one thing that he's been trying to find out and like discover.
Yeah.
And what that is David.
Oh, I have to say it.
Huh?
They're trying to use that group called the Cognite. Right. The Cognite's whole thing is they're trying to figure out a whole new like language, and what they're beginning to find out is that using that they can discover the Emperor's true name.
So like the big like overarching plot
is
I
like
guess, just to like summarize for the listeners is like the big overarching plot is like basically Constantine Valdor has spent 10,000 years in a pocket dimension working with Chaos and Agents of the Warp to try to discover the Emperor's true name so that he can have power over the Emperor for some unknown means, whether good or for ill. That's essentially like the end game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's fucking mental. If you ask
the
me.
grand scheme of things is like, oh yeah. But the thing is, there's got to be a reason why it would better the Imperium, because I can't see Valdor doing something heretical in this situation because he is so singularly, his role. It doesn't make any sense.
I guess as far as I'm concerned, like I think that, like, I'm curious to see because they obviously in the books they haven't actually had any sort of like interactions with him. So obviously, like they allude and like say that's basically Constantine Valdor, which is if you ask Darren from Canhammer, he thinks it's like the greatest thing ever because he loves custodes. But like, I guess I'm curious to see and have like a scene or like the first book with like an actual interaction with him, the Yellow King.
Yeah.
And to see actually like figure out like where he's at like mentally, right? Because like Custodes basically live forever. That's like something that's been established in the fluff. They actually have superior gene seed to regular Space Marines and regular, even like Primaris. They have superior gene seed. Like they're a lot closer to the Emperor than they are to like regular Space Marines. So they basically live forever unless like they obviously get killed.
Actually, they actually don't live forever. They just age slower than Space Marines. So
right, but it's like it's basically like it's like effectively
when a Custode
forever.
Gets too old, technically. When they get too old to like or to serve properly as a custodian, they take on the mantle of like a different kind of agency.
They become
like shadow agents of the. Yeah, which is still really. I wish they wrote a book about that.
Okay, but let me ask you one actually
cool to see a custode's
real question. So for those of you that have been following along, we're on book 8 of a 9-book essentially trilogy. Or ninology, whatever the fuck you want to call it. 3 trilogies of 3 books each.
Sure.
Eisenhorn, the trilogy, the Ravner trilogy, and the Beckwin trilogy. Those are the 3 trilogies. I own, just like you, David.
Yeah.
I own the original Eisenhorn trilogy in like paperback when they were released in like the early 2000s. and I think I own most of the Ravenor books in paperback when they're released. And then recently, about like last year, I repurchased all 6 of them on Audible, which is like the audiobook like app that I listen to all the books now on, and re-listened to like the whole trilogy on audiobook, which was amazing. So I would highly recommend you getting the audiobooks. But for some reason, it wasn't in my like awareness that like the first Beckwin book, which is called Pariah, had been released like 10 years ago as well. So Pariah, which is like the first book in the final trilogy, was released I think 12 years ago, around like 2013.
Yeah.
And then Penitent, which is like book 2, just got released this year.
Yep.
That's like a 12-year gap between book 1 in the trilogy and book 2 in the trilogy. So I ended up they both got re-released on audiobook on Audible. So I got both those books. I caught up to the series Penitent. What are your odds that book 3, the final book in this whole 9-book series, is released either next year or 12 years from now? What is your over-under on both of those?
Probably way sooner. Right. Because we're beginning to see. If you guys haven't read Alfarius,
I just bought it on Audible.
I've been told. I haven't read it yet, but I've been told. I gotta read. I'm going to buy it on Saturday. You're beginning to see a really interesting trend in the 40K. Any of the authors who wrote the Horus Heresy series, you're beginning to see a trend where these writers are starting to integrate the 30K lore into the 40K lore that they're now writing. And you're starting to see almost like a gap being created, that thing. So like with Alfarius, you're starting to learn more things about like the Emperor's real plan and like what they're really doing. And with Abnett, he's doing a lot of really cool things that are like connecting the 30K world into the 40K world. But also, you read the book The Pharaohs, right?
It's awful. I've read all the 30K books. Pharaohs sucks.
You don't like the ending of Pharaohs?
Whole, like everything around the whole Pharaohs
breadcrumb.
As like a concept, like all the books around the Pharaohs, I hate. Well, they're up there with the one where they fight dinosaurs in the jungle as far as bad Horus Heresy books.
And Battle for the Abyss.
Yeah, that's also bad. What about it though?
Oh, that's horrible. But the Pharaohs has a really ending because it has a really cool breadcrumb to the 40K universe. So when the Pharaohs gets destroyed, anyone who doesn't know what the Pharaohs is, it's a giant mountain that was used to like pretty much create like a temporal gateway between worlds. And they didn't really understand how that worked. Anyways, they destroyed part of it to like make sure it didn't fall into enemy hands. And one of the cool things is that when it got to I
was gonna say, so like during the heresy, when they had the rune storm, which basically like blocked off all communication and all like travel across the entire Imperium, which was like a big part of the heresy, this device, which was called the Pharaohs, they probably found aboard. And the Admech basically, it was probably built by the old ones or some other Necrons or some other ancient like race, and basically it allowed the Imperium to communicate across the galaxy during that rune storm, which was like this big event in the 30K universe. So the Pharaohs was like a very important tactical and strategic like thing to have, because it essentially allowed the Ultramarines, I think Imperial Fists and Ultramarines and a few other chapters, to basically communicate across the galaxy at a time when the rune storm, which is like this big thing that was created by the Word Bearers, was ravaging the galaxy, and all astro telepathic communication was like not possible. The Pharaohs allowed them to still communicate, and I think even at one point send matter through. Like I think they even sent a person through the Pharaohs at one point. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, that's what the Pharaohs was.
Yep.
Did I get it right?
Yeah. So the cool thing about it, it almost creates like a fake astropathic choir. Yeah, it pretty much creates like a fake astropathic choir where people could like, it gave them a beacon.
But no one understood the underlying tech. It was very like like pray to it and like rub oils and like hopefully it works.
Alien. Yeah. At the end of it, it gets destroyed and it sends out like a weird like psychic-esque scream into the warp. And the cool thing is the end of the Pharaohs, it talks about like the Great Devourer responding to its call and drifting towards our known universe. So pretty much the Pharaohs is telling us this is
Yeah.
how the Tyranids came to our
That's
40K
crazy.
universe, which is
Yeah.
so cool. Ah, I love
I
those
like that
little
stuff too.
things. They're so
Do you think
great.
okay, so like actually like random question, which is like it's always I always like think it's like a question that's like very always unanswered, but like I'll ask you. So like obviously most of the 40K universe is set in like the essentially like quote unquote the Milky Way. Like obviously, but the universe has like billions of galaxies, and like there's the Andromeda galaxy, there's also some other galaxies. So do you think that there's like chaos gods in like other galaxies, or like emperors in other galaxies, or like it almost like the 40K universe almost is like very confined to like our Milky Way galaxy essentially, like Terra and like all these things, but like you'd think that there's like other galaxies that like are like universe or galaxies across like the whole universe with like all sorts of other stuff happening. So like what's your like perspective on that? Because I'm like a lot of times I'm like, how is the Emperor like gonna kill all the Chaos Gods in just our galaxy? But then there's like a trillion other galaxies. Like what is your like thoughts on that?
I think the fact that Chaos Gods are in every single
Right.
galaxy. They're just like
Because that's the idea where the Tyranids came from, right? They came from like another galaxy.
and
they've been traveling for like many thousands of years.
They came here. Just devouring other
like they've already
entire
consumed like a
just to get
close
here.
galaxy, and they're now back coming into our galaxy, like the next close galaxy. That's the idea.
Yeah, pretty much. I think.
But what do you think about that?
Like,
do you think that's like a?
part
do you think
of
it's like
every
like a legit thing, or do you feel like they need to address the fact that there's like because with warp travel, you'd think they could just like pop over to I don't know Andromeda galaxy and just like chill, but I guess that's not a thing.
We don't. Well, no, it's more like they probably do, but the thing is, about the Astronomicon and the range of it, if it falters for like a second, can cut off like multiple star system communication with Terra, and then they just go into like caveman mode and they just go feral. I think about that a lot, and that probably, I mean, probably human civilization goes much further out. During the age of technology, we have no idea how far humanity went. There might be a whole entire galaxy with humans that are all secular. Because the whole thing is that the power of chaos isn't strong if people don't believe in it. Like, during the Great Crusade, chaos wasn't going crazy because we were creating a secular universe where people didn't believe that demons even existed. So in the age of technology, when at the height of secular artificial intelligence, you probably have a galaxy of people that aren't really affected by gods of the warp because they don't believe.
Right,
that's
but
possible.
It seems to me like.
But I mean, they probably expand across everything.
Okay, like maybe I don't want to disagree with you, but like my like interpretation of like the thing is that like actually in like the universe, the 40K universe, most of the population actually is not even aware of like chaos or like the whatever gods, whatever. But like they create the emotions that like spawn like the various chaos gods, and the Imperium, like especially like places like the Grey Knights, like all these like spaces, they go through a lot of trouble to like suppress the idea that like chaos even is a thing. Like if you like there's a lot of stories where like guardsmen go and like fight chaos, and then like after they win, they like kill them all. They wipe them all out because they're like, we can't have anyone that like has seen chaos back into like the regular population. So like this idea that like I don't know, I guess at the end of the day, like I guess I feel like the whole manifestation of chaos wasn't necessarily due to them like learning more about it, because they already like those feelings of like that created Slaanesh and Nurgle and Tzeentch, whatever, those are already there. The only difference is like now that like those kinds of things are like manifesting in the universe. But like a lot of times, like you always hear stories about like I just finished Ahriman, this book called Ahriman, the first book of the Ahriman trilogy, and there's basically a scene where there's like an inquisitorial ship that patrols the Eye of Terror, and they have a bunch of like servitors, but they also have like normal people that work on the ship, and every time they go into the Eye of Terror and like interact with the Chaos Force, when they get back, they like execute all the people on board and just like get a whole new crew, because like only the Inquisitors actually are allowed to know that like chaos exists. So when they go into the close Eye of Terror, they like fight chaos. They come back, then they like execute everyone on the ship, and just like refill it with like more normal new people and like go back. Like that's like their MO. And I just thought that was like very
Yeah.
I guess typical of like the Imperium, where it's like it's very like suppressing info, that kind of stuff. So anyways.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. David, anything else? I think that's basically
Yeah.
it. We want to talk about today. We talked a lot about fluff, which I love. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Pendant
we haven't
spoilers we
done
talked
that in a
about.
while.
Sorry?
We haven't talked about the fluffiness in a while. I know we got kind of digging deep talking about painting today, but
No.
it was nice talking about a little bit of the literature that sparks us into building stuff and making
Yeah.
things. And
No, I think, but that's the great part about the Best of All show. We talk about whatever the fuck we want, whatever the fuck we want. It's like the Seinfeld of podcasts. We talk about everything and nothing. It's basically about nothing, this show. So, with that said, any
Fair.
kind of last thoughts or before we head out?
Well, I'm looking at this new AdMech supplement, wondering if I should go to this tournament on Saturday.
You should go
It's
and have fun. But also,
I was gonna say,
yeah.
it's like I should go so I have content for the show. Also because I do like playing Warhammer, and I should be not questioning it. I should just go. I've been climbing nonstop for the last like couple. And I'm going to Utah next weekend to go climb some more. So maybe this weekend would be a nice reprieve.
Right.
Maybe I should just do it. Because who knows when I'll be able to play Warhammer again.
Yeah, who knows when like the next like opportunity to play Warhammer will be, right?
Yeah,
I'm currently planning like my next Warhammer thing. I'm currently planning for the Las Vegas team tournament, which is I think in September right now in Vegas.
Oh, nice.
So I'm trying to put together a team so I can register for it. But like I feel like that'll be my first actual Warhammer event. We started a league in British Columbia, so I started a 40K league for the whole province, which has been exciting. We've had almost like 150 players sign up, which has been really cool. And like it's been just actually a lot of fun just to like see the community kind of come back together, get excited about 40K, and like we're not actually starting playing games yet until like some of our restrictions lift, which hopefully will be like in another month or so. They're saying like mostly all adults will be vaccinated at least once by like mid-May in where I am. So I'm hoping that we can start the league around like June. That'd be like amazing if June 1st was like the kickoff of the league. But I'm kind of waiting and seeing. But other than that, yeah, like I'm just been painting a lot. My Bellacore, I'm almost finished. After this, I'm gonna paint some Creature Caster models, guys. Also, if you haven't checked out Creature Caster's new Kickstarter, definitely check it out. They have a new Kickstarter for Judgment Eternal Champions, I think it's called. It's basically like a game by Kickstarter that like uses a lot of their models in like a new game. And Creature Caster has amazing models. Like I've got a bunch of their Doom Princes in my army. I'm actually, bit of a spoiler, I might actually be able to, I'm trying to get an interview with Peter. I can't remember his last name, but he's basically the founder / owner of Creature Caster in a few weeks or so. So I'm trying to like set up a date so I can actually do an interview with him. So maybe I'll get him on the Best Overall show for next week if he's available. That'd be amazing. He can talk about like the whole company of Creature Caster, which is really cool. Other than that, yeah, I don't have really much else to say. So I think that's it. David?
Yeah, I mean, we've almost been for 2 hours, so we should probably shut our mouths and let everyone go about their lives.
All right.
Though,
well, thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoyed the cast today, please make sure to like us on Facebook or YouTube and subscribe on YouTube and on Twitch because we are on both. And then also make sure to check us out on podcast form. Just search the Best Overall Show on any of your podcast apps. We're on like 99% of them: Spotify, Google, Apple, etc. So just search the Best Overall Show and you can find the audio version of this podcast. And other than that, we'll be streaming on Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays moving forward. And you can check out my Instagram, JimboV_paints, and I'll be posting stream schedules there every week for the following week. So this Saturday, I'll post up next week's stream schedule and with all the guests and topics and all that kind of stuff. So with that said, thank you everyone for listening, and I wish you guys a great Thursday.